Welcome back to Books for the Back Porch. Do you enjoy books that deal with vengeance? What about dealing with the cyclical nature of violence? How far someone's willing to go to protect loved ones? Then you're going to love this book. Eli Cranor's Ozark Dogs was published in 2023, and you're going to be surprised, it takes us to the Ozark Mountains of Arkansas. So let's see how it stacks up as a Southern noir. Ozark Dogs opens with an unmailed letter to an unknown prisoner before we even get into chapter 1. So today we're going to tackle the first sentence of the first letter and the first sentence of chapter 1 and see how they go. The letter opens with all these letters I keep writing, but I still ain't got the guts to send them. First, I love the use of the letter to open this book. It just dumps you into this character's head, and while it makes sense shortly, it does leave you questioning what's going on. Who are they writing to? What happened to put them into jail? And the first sentence is setting theme right away. All these letters I keep writing shows that this person, Jo, is persistent. She's continually doing this task and not giving up on it, especially in light of the fact of the second half of that sentence, where she still ain't got the guts to send them. With the use of still here, we know that this lack of courage isn't a new thing. And I love how this one word can make and break this sentence. Yeah, you can take still out, and this is a functioning sentence. It still gets its point across, but it doesn't have that punch that still gives it. You know, that just encapsulates the entire thing, and it shows that this is a long time she's been doing this, and she still can't get courage to do that. Incredible. And after a page and a half of the letter, we're on to chapter 1 and the opening line there. The sun sank behind the ruins in ribbons of red, long shadows running the length of the junkyard. You can take it at surface level that the plot's going to resolve around a junkyard, and maybe the writer likes to use flowery description, but there's so much more you can unpack here. The sun sinking isn't just setting time of day for the opening chapter, but it also gets to be a couple of different things. The sinking sun conjures up darkness. This book is going to be dealing with some dark themes and some dark moments. But it also conjures up time running out, and not just in the day, but possibly for our characters. Is the main character going to die? Will they not be able to save the day? Who knows? The use of ruins sets some character for the junkyard, but it also straight up telling you things are going to be ruined by the end of this book. What you don't know is in what way and for who. It sets up the expectation for you in your mind, and it keeps you hooked to want to see the who, the how, and the why of these ruins. Now, I can tell you, ribbons of red in a rural noir book, or almost any crime book at all, like this, call to mind one thing: blood trickling from a wound. So now we know it's going to be violent, possibly some death, maybe not. Long shadows could serve to hammer home that things are going to be dark. But why would the author want to re-emphasize the point it made in the first half of this sentence already? What they're really trying to do here is get you thinking, what are shadows? How do they operate? Shadows are always shifting. Nothing is quite what it seems in the shadows. You also start thinking about growing up in the shadow of somebody else, living on the shadow of society. And the adjectives of long and running shadows add to that. Maybe these people have been living in the shadow of someone else for a long time. Maybe they've been living on the edges of society. Maybe they've been running from society for a long time. And maybe something just isn't what it seems and hasn't been for a while. And the junkyard isn't just a unique setting in this case. It wraps up all these other thoughts we've been having throughout this sentence. When you think of a junkyard, what are you thinking of? They're dirty. They're gross. It's where you throw stuff out, where things go to get crushed, where cars go to die, where hope goes to die. And this is what I love about reading. I've read one sentence in this book, and my mind is already conjuring up all of these different thoughts, all of these different scenarios, trying to tie them all together somehow, and seeing if I'm right or I'm wrong, seeing if I can figure this all out, by the end of the book. And I've also enjoyed the fact that the letter acts almost like a prologue here. It had me bouncing between the letter opening and the first sentence of chapter 1, seeing the interplay with each other, and as one reads more, reflecting back on the first sentences and seeing if they have any more foreshadowing, or if I'm completely off the mark. But I love that it's giving me this chance to bounce back and forth and think about these things. You might be thinking that I'm really getting lost in the weeds here, diving in way deeper than I necessarily need to, but it really highlights the effort that authors put into their craft. These words, especially when it is the opening line, is the first thing a new reader is going to see. They've read the blurb, but that's written by somebody else. This is the first time the new reader gets to hear the author. And this is their hook. And it is carefully constructed, and it's not just thrown together. That's why I also don't discredit a book for having a guessable twist. A good twist you should be able to guess, because the author should be crafting their words and their sentences to make the audience guess it, or at least give it as a possibility that it's something you're thinking could happen before it does. There should be leaving not just breadcrumbs in the plot, but carefully constructing their sentences and their word choices from the start and planting those seeds for your mind to make connections with. In and out of the book, taking your life experience, your life knowledge, and putting them to work. And Ozark Dogs does this wonderfully. Sorry to go on a bit of a tangent here. I love when you can go on and really dissect these words and really see how the whole book is shaped by this first sentence. It's wonderful. So let's get back to Ozark Dogs plot-wise and talk about that. We quickly find out that Jo, a 17-year-old girl, is living in the junkyard with her grandfather, Pop. It's been raised by him since a toddler when her father went to prison for capital murder and has a lifetime sentence. Her mom's been MIA, and we don't really know where she is or why she's not in the picture. All we know is that her grandfather, Jeremiah, or Pop, is a Vietnam War vet and has constructed a concrete fortress inside this junkyard for him and Jo to live in. He does this because he thinks it's needed for safety. There's multiple passages describing this place as a fortress. It is loaded to the gills with weapons. The walls are 3 feet of concrete. At no point is a window ever mentioned. There's multiple security cameras in this place. It calls to mind the prison that her father is in. And yet Jo's on the outside and living in essentially the same type of building. We find out that Jo is in the running to become homecoming queen, and before the ceremony and before the crowning, she surprises Pop by letting him know that she's got a boyfriend, Colt, and Colt is the star quarterback for the football team. Jo also surprises Pop by asking to go to the homecoming dance after the game. Pop is reeling after this double whammy of finding out that she's seeing somebody and wanting to stay out. He finally relents and allows her to go as long as she's back in time by curfew. Obviously, we all know Jo's not going to make it back in time for curfew, and as time goes on and the night goes into day, Grandpa begins to suspect that the local meth-dealing white supremacist rednecks probably are involved with Jo not coming back. From there, it's Pop and it's Colt hunting them down, trying to keep Hope and Jo alive. And that's the quick hook of it. Along the way, we meet some more characters. Some of them are pretty stock and cliche tropes of the characters. We get the recovering alcoholic Vietnam vet. We've got the high school boyfriend from the wrong side of the tracks. We got the drug-dealing racist rednecks. We have the prostitute who's also an addict. We have the absent dad who's in jail. We have the sheriff trying to get out from the shadow of their parents. Cranor is not reinventing the wheel of these characters. But what he's doing, he's utilizing them in a way that's fun and unique. He has them ask you questions. How far would you go to save a loved one? Can you correct mistakes that you've made in the past? Can you keep loved ones safe and protected? And are you going too far when you're doing that? How can you continue to live in the shadow of crimes that someone else committed but shares your name? Why are some men so susceptible to the idea of hate and racism? Eli Cranor doesn't answer these questions. He simply has the characters ask them and leaves you to sit there in the darkness, the filth, the ruins of this junkyard, and leaves you to answer them for yourself. I won't lie, this book can get pretty dark, and it can be pretty gross and in its descriptions of violence and in general. But it doesn't come off as gratuitous and over the top. It almost always is serving the plot and serving the book. There was this one sentence where I had to put the book down, and I thought to myself, that is way too gross to be going and talking about with a teenage girl. Only for the next chapter to begin, and surprise, it wasn't exactly what I thought it was. Again, long shadows, things not quite being what they seem. I can tell you this, I had a great time reading Ozark Dogs, and if you've been enjoying this new wave of Southern Noir from the past 10 or so years, you're probably going to love this too. So, tell me in the comments if you've already read Ozark Dogs, or if you haven't, let me know what books you have read that have made you think about how far you could go to save someone you love. On deck, I've got S.A. Cosby's brand new release, King of Ashes. I've been counting down the days for this book to release, and I'm so excited to finally be able to get my hands on it tomorrow and start. I've got nothing in the hole for what's up after that. So, if you have any suggestions for what I should read after King of Ashes, leave them in the comments. That's all for this week. Keep reading, and I'll see you guys next week.